Hello and welcome everybody to this episode of International Cannabis Conversations. We're on trichomes.com and this podcast is powered by the Global Cannabis Network Collective. I am your host today, Chris Day. I'm a co-founder of the GCNC. And today I get to also be your tour guide as we go around the world to Tel Aviv, Israel. I have a truly intriguing company that we're going to talk about today, and one of the brilliant minds behind it. When I first came across MyCrops from a friend, and they hooked me initially talking about an app that could take a picture and tell you what the concentration of THC was in the plant that picture was. And I thought, how is that even possible? But then afterwards, I got a chance to actually talk to the CEO and the chief science officer of this company and realize that what they're doing is so far beyond taking pictures and looking at them. It's really providing a potentially game-changing opportunity for cultivation and farmers all around the world, not only in cannabis, but across a whole host of different crops. And so I want to welcome today Assaf Gavish, co-founder and chief scientific officer of MyCrops. Thanks so much, Assaf, for making the time. I know it's getting late in the evening where you are. Time zones are always a trick with these, but thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I was looking at sort of the overview paragraph that you sent of MyCrops, and you're describing sort of what you're doing is telemedicine for plants. I think that's brilliant. And you know, in looking at your bio, you've got years of experience as a biology researcher. A number of degrees. You've got a focus in computer vision for agriculture. All of these things independently I have thought about over the years, but combined, I actually hadn't put all that together in my head. So tell us a little bit about you and how you're intertwining all of these things. Sort of what's been the path to the creation of MyCrops?
Thanks, Chris. Would love to. So I'm a biology nerd, born and raised in a little town called Rehovot near Tel Aviv. It's like a college town with two large universities. One is the agriculture faculty of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and the other one is the Weizmann Institute, which is like one of the leading academia in Israel. So ever since I was a kid, I went to like after school classes there, and my mom is a biologist, so I was like into science in general, like growing up, and being in Israel, there are like a few things that set us apart, or like that we're good at, in being such a small country with not a lot of resources. And one of these things was agriculture. So ever since I started to think about what I'm going to do with my life, I understood that agriculture is like one of the advantages that we have as coming from Israel. So after doing like biotechnology major in high school, and then going to biology in bachelor's degree, I somehow found myself imaging plants to find disease in Tel Aviv University in a botrytis specific lab under Professor Amir Sharon. And that kind of paved the way. I found my niche. It was regarding photography, which I come from a family with several photographers. I was always into photography, and it involves plants, which I love. And I didn't know it at the time, but it even involved taking pictures of a disease that's plaguing a lot of plants, including cannabis. That's botrytis. It's a gray mold, also called. And I went on to a master's degree in the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot, next to my hometown. And there I also did imaging. I did fluorescent microscopy to find disease, this time in algae and corals, in a really cool project that we had in collaboration with MIT. And we did a lot of fluorescence microscopy and a lot of nerdy stuff there. And I continued with the image analysis, like more classic image analysis. And this is 2012, 2013, where deep learning and AI wasn't really that prevalent. And I was already in my direct PhD track. Actually, I was setting myself to do the PhD. But then the entrepreneurial bug infected me.
Yeah.
And
I know that bug pretty well, actually. I got to admit, though, Assaf, before you go on, my family is full of scientists. I am the lone exception. So I have to give you credit for going through this path, because to me, it's always amazing to see sort of the long path that science takes to come to a culmination of something that is so transformative. So I never had the patience for it, because normally the entrepreneurial bug and the discipline that it takes to achieve true science breakthroughs don't always go together. Sometimes they do, but obviously they've manifested together in you. So that in and of itself is quite impressive.
Thank you. You're too kind. I guess there is a thing that's connected to not giving up, like trying something, for a long time. And in a way, there is this kind of prestige of being in a PhD, and it's something that I really admire, people with PhDs. But in a way, I always knew deep down that I want to do something else, and I want to do something that's gonna impact differently. So I decided to go on my independent path and went on to find what problems people have in the cannabis industry. Actually, this is the thing that really put me to this course, because I guess you'd sympathize with this. I always thought it's weird how cannabis is illegal. It always seemed to me strange. I used to use it a little bit from time to time, but it seemed like such a relatively low harm substance relative to other substances, and
Sure,
it
and
was really
oftentimes quite a benefit, right? I mean, it
yeah.
right?
I mean,
there's certainly
yeah,
medicinal benefits proven now throughout the world. So I
obviously, but I'm
agree with you. Yeah.
even looking at the negative side.
Yes.
Even looking at the negative, obviously, it's I was some years I thought it's a wonder plant with no bad things. But even if you look at some of even if you look at the negative aspects and just compare them with regular alcohol, caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a big hypocrisy to me to see it illegal. And then when Colorado and Washington had their first results come, for a couple of years after they were legalized, and you see that all the things they scared you about, usage among teenagers and car accidents, stuff like that, they came back the other way around. And there was that one thing that I'm not sure it's really fake news or not, but they said that in Colorado they returned some money back to citizens because they were collecting so much tax from selling cannabis.
Being International Cannabis Conversations is hosted from my office in the southern part of Denver, Colorado. So the complexities of answering that require a fair amount of tax study. So it is somewhat accurate, that statement. Certainly, it is true that a huge amount of tax revenue has been generated to the benefit of schools and education in the state of Colorado. So the reimbursement thing is not quite accurate. It's tied to a more complicated law for another day. But I appreciate the fact, actually, that that's made it all the way around the world.
Yeah. The people who followed it, at least, people who were like passionate about it. So long story short, I went to work in a medical cannabis farm to see the needs of growers. And one of the first thing I noticed is that people just walk around looking at plants, like looking at them. And, me coming from image analysis, I was like, you can automate this. And I saw that all these conversations about look at the color of the leaf is changing. This means this nutrient is deficient or no. Then people start to maybe discuss it. Is this or that one? And of course, every time like there's something more like a irrigation problem or harvest timing, you see people walking around with little loops, like jeweler's loops. And for me, like I'm a freak of microscopy, magnification, loops. I was like, this is my, this is my turf. So after working there for a while and really getting to know the plant and the needs, I spoke about it with a good friend of mine, with who is today our CEO, Assaf Levy, who's the same name as mine, and we decided to go for it. We did some market research, we did a lot of interviews, and we decided to go for it. We established the company in 2017 and started with a tour to California. Actually, that was the first.
You
California
were up in
and Oregon, like
Emerald Triangle, right up there.
Yeah, we met some amazing people up in Humboldt.
There are some terrific people who really know cultivation up there. I'm happy to call many of them friends. And so for the audience, what I'm understanding then is I've been in greenhouses and seen folks either walking through the plants or even seen people suspended on a conveyor almost over there looking for leaves or infestation. And what I hear you saying is that you're using cameras inside of greenhouses to take pictures and images, and then based on what I read and we talked about before, you're using that against a database, right, which is tracking it so that in real time cultivators are getting updates on the condition of their plants much quicker and probably more accurately than if they were having to go through and inspect every day. Am I getting that right?
Yep. Basically, we just take the images and digest them through algorithms that we develop using a lot of data that we've been collecting for about 4 years. And we divide the phenomena that we look at is health and maturity. And health means identifying disease, pests, mold, and identifying irrigation problem, nutrient imbalances, just identifying it to like a certain degree of a resolution or like specificity. Mm-hmm. The other thing is maturity, to find out when the crops are ready for harvest, which area is ready sooner, and also give some appraisal into how much cannabis or how much flower do you have here, and give you some more predictability in terms of what you're going to have in stock when you harvest.
So if this is ongoing in real time, then it's just so cool because you're integrating big data and AI into disease identification. But I'm assuming you can also then help with crop optimization, right, throughout the whole cycle, so that people can really and is this by strain, I would assume.
Right. So in terms of, you mentioned taking data and the artificial intelligence. So like more grounding it is that we develop deep learning algorithms. It's a branch of AI, but basically you need a lot of data to cover or to generalize better your algorithms. And we do that by the data that we collected and annotated for a long time. So we didn't just go out and captured a lot of data ourselves. We did that, but we went and outsourced it. So we developed that app that you mentioned earlier. We put it out under a different name. It's called HiGrade, and today it has over 200,000 users. Maybe some of them are listening right now. And we collected a few millions of images of many different strains from many different angles and lighting kinds and growing techniques, etc. So the variability of the data set allows us to give the service not reliant on a specific strain. So this like alludes to your question, like, is it a strain specific? So our algorithms are robust enough to fit different strains. Having said that, we do, when we come to the big growers now and we set up the system, we have a learning phase that we adjust ourselves to the specific cultivation. So we do like calibration for the specific site and the specific strains that we're working with. We do some quality control to see that everything works nice, and then we can get the service going.
When you set up a new facility, what is typically sort of the learning cycle for you? What's this sort of acclimation phase? How long does that take for folks?
So that takes between a couple of weeks to a month, where we need to do mapping, like we transform the actual field into a 3D map in our system to help control the cameras and to help them to give them a script of how to scan the field. And beyond that technical part, we also take the images and do a quality control. So we run them through the algorithms and do tests on like samples to see that we're not missing any false negatives. We're not doing any inaccurate predictions. And we do that with the agronomists that we have on the team. And then when we are happy, like if we need to adjust, then we do some training to the algorithm to make it a farm specific algorithm. And then we go on. So this takes up to a month.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I am just so impressed by how much technology can help us optimize agriculture. I mean, over the recent holiday, I had the chance to drive across West Texas, which, if you've ever driven across West Texas, you realize that there's nothing there except hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of just farmland of all types. And you start to realize that when you see it, you start to realize how much technology has become a requirement to pull off agriculture, because without it, there's no way that individuals anymore could possibly sustain at the levels we need them to sustain these farms. So I really enjoy hearing about these types of macro level adjustments. But
that's a good point, actually. Not to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But open field crops is a very good example, because they've been enjoying image analysis for a long time now. They've been using drones, but before that, the satellite imagery has been used to monitor crops since the 90s or even earlier. And the thing is about cannabis, but in general greenhouses or horticulture, is that imaging from above is just, you can't do it. There's either a roof or the plants are very tight together.
Yep.
So this is where we come in. So we decided to go into this space. We're starting with cannabis, and we think it will be our main source of revenue. But we're also looking at other plants grown indoors or grown in greenhouses, because it's just like a blue ocean.
Yeah.
And we decided to take like a lean approach, not do like a very expensive system, to do a lightweight system so we can cover as many greenhouses as we can as fast as we can.
Well, I think that's also responsible business, right? I mean, the approach that you're taking seems to be one that allows you to expand as you grow, as opposed to having to take on an overabundance of capital. So at least on the outside, that's what it appears to me that you're doing, and it's allowing you to be, I think, to be smart in how you're deploying it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but at least what I've read about the company, it appears that you've structured it quite soundly.
I hope you're right. We think so. We're like a lean, mean team, and we don't. We try to be to not expand or too fast, but still go and always get the feedback from actual customers. So we, as our, like, we love the development and the algorithms and the science part of it. This is like our passion, but we know that if you're not coming with actual customer feedback, you may be developing the wrong thing. So we're always fighting and get more paying customers who are potentially like not homogeneous, to make sure that we fit the actual market and we're not in some kind of bubble. So we have a customer who started with a pilot who's now a paying customer in Israel. We have a pilot in California that we just did installations in. We have paying customers in customer in Canada that we're about to do installation in. So we're trying to be across the map and with different kind of cultivation styles to get the actual picture like of the market, and not to keep it like is R&D collaborations, to actually show that people are willing to pay this price point for this service and to prove the actual value. So this is super critical for us.
Yeah, well, and I really appreciate the fact that you've spread it across so many different countries, and that you're running these pilots in that way. I've talked to so many companies that, you know, they build their business model off of either a singular country, or in the US it'll be a singular state, and then they assume it's just going to perform the same, and it never does. I mean, in terms of agriculture and horticulture, you're looking at changes that happen all the time, and frankly, with business models and legal frameworks, you've got those kind of pressures on the business as well. So you know, ICC, we're always focused primarily on multinational operators, because we really want to highlight how those companies are being successful by testing into new markets intelligently. I do want to talk about sort of the longer term vision of the company and where you're headed. But before I do, I want to talk about the app, because you know, I opened saying the original hook, when I looked at what you're doing, came from this idea that you had an app that I could put on my phone and could take a picture, and then somehow you could tell me what the THC content was of a particular plant in front of me. So, and you extrapolated on that a little bit, saying you've got hundreds of thousands of customers now using it. Who are these customers, and you know, what are they specifically using it for? Because they obviously are not all running greenhouses. Are they primarily farmers and cultivators, or end consumers?
Some of them are end consumers. We have a lot of micro growers that grow 1 or 2 plants or 10 plants. We have a lot of those. And the growers themselves, they like the THC testing feature that you mentioned, because they don't have way or the funds to test it. So it's like their own testing kit. And we got where everywhere that it's legal to grow cannabis, the app is available. Yeah.
Okay, and that's limited at the moment to THC, right? So we're not talking about other cannabinoids and other aspects of the plant for that.
Right. So I can give like the short like a spiel of this feature, which is like the attention grabbing feature.
Sure.
So when we started helping cultivators, we saw that we can help using magnified images of trichomes. We can give an assessment of the harvest timing. We realized that this is actually tapping into the chemistry of the plant. And the trichomes, we went to the science of trichomes, and we said, hey, why not do it to the end product as well? So we went and got many samples of dry cannabis flowers and with magnified images and sent them to HPLC certified labs. And this was mainly in the US and Canada and later in Europe as well. And after we got enough images, we got to sufficient accuracy of 85%, which is 15% MRSE for those interested. And the reason or the idea behind this feature is not to replace testing, is not to be like a medical device that you use it to dose your medicine in like ppm concentrations. It was to give a rough assessment to know if you're in the low, medium, or high range. And the accuracy of 85% is translated to roughly plus minus 3% THC. Now, this feature is unique in terms that it's very fast. You get the result in about 15 seconds, depends on the connectivity, and it's non-destructive. It's just images. You don't need even to grind the plant. You take 3 images from different sides of the flower. That's it. So there are downsides or limitations, which is it's just for THC and not CBD, not other cannabinoids. It's only good for strains that are with THC only, that are with less than 1% CBD normally for this strain. And it's only good for dried and cured flowers. It's not calibrated for wet flowers or fresh flowers. So these are the limitations. And we decided that it is a great feature, but we want to stay focused on our main goal of helping cultivators, and we think it's a much larger potential. So we're trying not to put a lot of focus, and we're not advertising it too much. We're not raising funds for it. It kind of keeps itself running, and we obviously support our customers, but it's not what we focus on today in terms of PR or in terms of much development or anything like that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I find it fascinating how you took a feature in an app and even with those limitations, and now have grown it into this much larger concept and company that is going to be so helpful to so many cultivators. And so, what are those next steps now for the company? What's the plan for growth over the next couple of years? In cannabis, I never ask further than about 24 months because I don't think it's fair. But what's the business plan?
So now it's spreading to more farms. In 2 years, we think we'll have about a dozen farms, with on average 10 acres each. Depends. Perhaps we'll have more farms which are smaller or less farms which are bigger. This is more or less our vision. We hope to overperform, but this is in the business plan. and all the while starting to do pilots and more proofs on other crops with collaborators, with some industrial collaborators we are already in contact with. And yeah, that's pretty simple actually, just to grow, scale, and make the algorithms better, gather more data all the time, more customers, iterate on the product.
So each time, the product just continues to get smarter as you add acreage. This
is like then some kind of like a network effect in the data side, that just you enlarge your competitive advantage the more you spread the system. This is why it was important for us not to have a heavy system that you need to change the infrastructure of the farm or whatever, and not to do like to have it costly. We need to have it a no-brainer solution. So we don't change the infrastructure. The installation is like a couple of days for a couple of acres, and it's the like 10 times cheaper than other products. So
well, I'm going to look forward to talking to you again in about a year and see, how it's progressed and how it's going. I've approached this very much in layman's terms because I don't have near the degrees and the ability to talk at the scientific terminology level that you can. But for those cultivators out there who listen to the show, if they want to get sort of more in the weeds, as it were, over the conversation, how would they reach out to you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
You can look at our website. It's mycrops.ag.ag, like agriculture. So MYCROPS, mycrops.ag. And you have a contact form there. Just shoot us an email. You can also email me directly. It's assafg at mycrops.ag. And we look forward to speaking with as many farmers as possible. We want people who are open to new solutions, who believe in technology, who want to have better efficiency through technology, and who like new stuff.
Great. Well, Assaf, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And for all of those out there watching or listening to International Cannabis Conversations, this is what we do. We take tours around the world, hear from operators in different aspects of the cannabis industry, and hear how each of them are beginning businesses, overcoming challenges, and helping change the world of cannabis across continents and across countries. And so we look forward to seeing you all next time. Please continue to follow us, share the podcast with your friends, and look forward to the future. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.